Okay, here's how Miro works. See, it's amazing.
What's everyone doing at David's desk?
Ever since marketing started using Miro's collaborative online whiteboard, he thinks all our other teams should sign up.
Why?
He says Miro's making his meetings disappear. And if every team gets on it, that means even less meetings. They're using Miro for brainstorms, mind maps, customer research.
So could we use Miro instead of having another 100 meetings for every round of feedback?
Yep. You can comment, react to ideas, even leave a recording on the board.
And what about presentations?
There are Miro templates for that.
How do you know so much about Miro?
I've actually been using it all along. I just used a Miro board to plan the best vacation.
Okay, I'm on board.
See how Miro users save up to 80 hours every year by meeting less and doing more. Get on board at Miro.com with 3 boards free forever. That's MIRO.com.
Israel is 5,690 miles away from the U.S., 11 hours by plane. Hate travels faster. In a comment, in a post, in a second. Jewish hate is up 388% in the U.S. Black hate, Muslim hate, and Asian hate are up too. When one hate rises, they all do. Let's stand up to all hate together. Share and wear the blue square from standuptojewishhate.org.
What's up, y'all? This is Neena Perez, and this is Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. And I know that you are here to listen to the best humans on the planet to grow, challenge, and transform your thinking. Let's do this. I got the perfect human for you. Okay, her name is Bernadette Boas, and I hope I said that right.
You did.
Bernadette Boas. Did I?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
She's simply known as the Ball of Fire. So you know we're about to have some fun up in here. Okay, so Bernadette is an executive coach. She's a speaker, a trainer, a podcaster, a videocast host, and she also has the Ball of Fire coaching. All right, so we're going to get into that. She is transforming lives of corporate executives, teams, and businesses around the globe so they can become the powerhouses that they are meant to be. So Bernadette, let's get into it, Ball of Fire. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you very much, Neena.
Good. I'm really, really glad you're here. I'm really glad you're here because I know this is going to be so fun.
Yes.
So Bernadette, the way I like to start the show is to have my beautiful audience know a little bit more about you. So the first question is, who is Bernadette Boas? Who are you, woman?
Wow. Who am I? What a loaded question. I am just a pumped up, high energy, loving life woman, friend, lover, dog owner, pickleball player.
I love it.
Yes. And, very, family oriented type of individual who just absolutely loves helping people realize their potential.
What got you there, though? Was that, I know that, I know you work with corporate. So was it because were you burned out in corporate? Did you start off did you always do corporate as a career? Tell me a little bit about your journey.
Well, my journey is 25 years in corporate, in pretty much every position you can imagine, from retail to technology, all the way to a VP/C level executive.
Mm-hmm.
In late 2007, I was fired by my mentor of 12 years.
Wow.
And so there I found myself standing in the middle of a parking lot with a pink slip in my hand and like this single box of my 25-year career.
Wow.
Wondering what the hell just happened. Like,
right.
Why am I standing here in the middle of this parking lot? And I decided at that very point in time too, because as much as I was feeling anger and bitterness and confusion and, I was perplexed, there was this small little part of me that was very excited.
Right.
And kind of just knowing. And yet I didn't know what I was knowing. And so I went off on what I call my excavation of my soul type of journey over the next year or two. And it was on a run with my dog in at a park when I was running through my mind kind of the last 25 years and all the situations, encounters, experiences, people that, I worked with, I was involved with, trying to figure out like, who was I and why was I standing in that
Right.
parking lot?
Right.
And I, finally just came face to face with her in my mind. And she was a very ugly, angry tyrant of an individual who,
Mm.
just kind of ruled with an iron fist and was far from the servant leader, that I actually coach and work on today.
Right.
And I just knew right then and there that I had to use my story, my lessons, my best practices, everything, including a formula that I had uncovered during my journey, to kind of help other people.
Yeah, that's powerful, isn't it? When you have to stand and face yourself. All right.
Yes.
It's a very painful,
Yes.
powerful, life
Yes.
transformative, experience. It really
Yes.
is. So tell me about why you think when you faced yourself, why were you a tyrant? Why did you rule with an iron fist? Where did that come from?
That came from a lot of my own insecurities, not a lot, like all of my insecurities, my fears, my feeling of intimidation, not fitting in, not
Mm,
feeling good enough. And I masked them. I decided to cover them up and mask them by projecting myself in this, like, I'm going to get you before you get me type of
mhm, mhm.
attitude and behavior and personality. And so I, felt like that will work and protect me and keep me safe from really having to look myself in the mirror.
Mhm, mhm.
And so, that's kind of why I all of a sudden took it on. I will also add that I had some influences in my early 20s where I'm one of 12 children out
Wow.
of Philadelphia, very, middle class family. And all of a sudden I land up in Boca Raton, Florida, which is like the Rodeo Drive of the Southeast. And I'm amongst all of these kids in college that have all this money and they throw it around and they demanded it around and they were curt around, wanting to get what they want based on the fact that they had all this money. And I said to myself, well, you know what? I'm really looking for power, position, and prosperity too. And if that behavior gets what they want,
Ah, I see.
then maybe it'll work for me too.
Yeah.
So I just kind of took it on as a part-time type of, mask. And yet year after year after year, especially as I did get successful and I started acquiring all of that,
Right. I was gonna
I
ask you
just
that. Mhm.
yeah, I just started to embed that side of me, that
Kinda fed the
personality.
ego, right? Kinda fed
Yes,
that ego. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
That's
yes.
interesting. And what's interesting too, Bernadette, is I know, I 50, so I've been working for a long time. But I know that that style of leadership is not unheard of. And it's also a style of leadership that I think is more old school, right? And I say that because that's me. That's how I
Right,
was,
right,
for years ago. I
right,
was the same.
right,
And so I get that, right? And especially when you are thriving in your career, then
right.
it kind of validates, right? It kind of validates and justifies that behavior, even though you don't always feel that good though either, right? Like sometimes you go home and you don't feel that good about that. Yeah.
Right, but you're not
Yeah.
you're not relating that ugly feeling to the fact that it's
Yeah.
because you're being ugly.
Right.
You're blaming everybody else. You're finding some
Yeah.
other reason outside of yourself to kind of, stick it on.
Right.
And now I will say, because I'm asked all the time, well, did you do it because you were so successful and you were a woman in a man's industry and multiple industries, and you were the only woman at the table? Did you take it on because you felt you had to be that way? And I said, no, like I said, I'm one of 12, six of which are men now. And my father was a military guy.
Mm.
So, I had no fears or intimidations walking into a room, full of men,
Right.
and I didn't feel like I had to mirror them to be successful. I did it just simply because I had a lot of these fears, insecurities, and negativities that had nothing to do with that. It had to do with, well, how do I get power, position, and prosperity? And am I good enough to get it? And
Mhm.
am I worthy enough to get it? And therefore, well, these kids seem to get it. So maybe that'll work for me too.
Right. I mean, that's real, right? That's
Sure.
real.
Sure.
And so, Bernadette, so then when you were sitting in that park, when you were standing in that parking lot, man, when you were explaining, I could imagine that feeling. Oh, God, that's a horrible feeling, right?
Uh-huh.
It's a horrible feeling and probably the best thing that ever happens to
Oh,
someone,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, depending on how you take it though,
Right.
Bernadette, because some people can
Right.
go into a spiral and go
Right.
into a dark place, but you
Right.
decided to do a different thing, right?
Right.
So when you started to face that other person or that thing that you did not like about you or things that you were doing, or what was that process for you? Like, was personal development and all that part of your life at that time, or were you just like facing it going, what the F?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. If, had you told me 12, 15 years ago that I'd be in the woo-woo business,
right.
I would have told you you're effing
She said, woo.
crazy. You're effing. I even have a program that's called It's a How-To, Not Woo-Woo. Because just talking about mindset and mindfulness and emotional intelligence was so far from my verbiage.
Right.
But I
That's
had
so
to
funny.
get that little twinge that I talked about as I was standing there in that parking lot of excitement and curiosity. That was what all of a sudden spoke to me. Now I'm very faith-based. So I also
Yeah, me
saw
too.
that as, God talking to me.
Yeah.
Saying, don't go down, like what you said, don't go down a black hole.
Right.
Kind of recognize that this is your time to take ownership and responsibility for whatever it is. I didn't know at the time, for
Right.
whatever it is you did and what part you played in you standing in the middle of that parking lot.
Right.
And so I happened to inherit from my father a love of journaling. And he always carried around this little book in his shirt pocket, and he was always scribbling. And so I was curious when I was like 8 or 9, and he just talked to me and he just said, capture your day, capture your feelings,
Oh,
capture
that's
your
really good.
experience.
Yeah.
He wasn't capturing that. He was capturing, how do I feed 12 kids?
Right.
So
Right.
he's capturing, the budget and the spending. But my journaling saved me because for at that point, 30, 40 years, I had never read my journals. I just scribble. I'm a journaler that just scribbles and then puts it away.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to go back to those journals and see if I can find where I started this transition. And then I obviously, I'm a journal collector. So then I started pulling blank journals off the shelf and I started filling them up, just purging. And then I realized, okay, I have to start asking myself some really deep questions, heavy questions. And it was, questions that don't seem heavy, but at the same time, most people don't ask them. And if they do, they don't spend time with them. And so it was like, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I not want to be? What do I want? What do I not want? What's important to me? That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just kind of do a surface run through of answering those questions. But then I spent weeks and months, if not years, digging even further to where I probably have like a book of each of those responses now.
That's good.
And that's what so I went on my own personal, like I said, excavation of my soul journey. And I did capture that I did go through like these 5 phases, which is very, it's almost similar to the stages of grief.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I was going through these stages of, and I call it my shift to riches formula, which is discover, confront, shed, so you can create and accelerate.
Awesome.
So I was recognizing that I was discovering who I was. I was confronting the good, the bad, and the ugly. I was shedding, making decisions about shedding what I didn't want and who I didn't want and where and what I didn't want in my life anymore, which left me on my couch alone for a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But then as I was allowing all of that to happen, I all of a sudden started creating, accelerating new goals and new aspirations and new relationships and new business opportunities and new, creativity. And all of a sudden the world started opening up to me. And I, was shedding all of that ugliness that I had,
Good.
before. And I was becoming someone that even a couple years into it, 2 ex-employees thought I had a facelift.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah. So,
That's
because they were
powerful.
like, you look like 15 years younger. Like, what happened? And I'm like,
Right.
I shedded my bitch.
Yes, I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
so powerful, right? Because it's so because you're faith-based, I can say this to you, because God allows us to go through these journeys, and then we look at these journeys and are able to pull out everything we need to impact and help someone else. It is just
Mhm.
mind-blowing to me when God does that, because I've
Mhm.
seen it in my own life, right? And
Right.
I'm helping women. I help women too, right, to transition and like just see themselves for who they really are. But it wasn't because, oh, I just woke up and that's what I decided to do.
Right.
It's because of the journey.
Right.
And,
Right.
I feel like when you have this relationship with your creator, you have to say a relationship with God, it's almost like it jumps out of the pages and you start to go, oh, wow, wait a sec. What? I got a whole system here.
Yes.
Right? Isn't that
Yes.
amazing?
Yeah. And I
So
wouldn't say
amazing.
mine jumped. Mine kind of like tiptoed. Mine was a whole tiptoeing of like,
I love
paying
that.
attention that he's telling me something or he's
Yeah,
showing me something or he's
that's
teaching me
good.
something or he's rewarding me with something. And then I just kind of said, you know what? If I focus on that stuff versus
Yeah.
focusing on this other greedy, power, ego, vanity type of, other, things, then I'm always happier. So
Yeah.
why don't I live over there and give up on caring what
Right.
other people think and what car they drive and what car I drive and
Right.
how big my office is or how much money I make. I just let it all go.
So how did you decide that you wanted to get back into corporate? Right? Because you're going in it, but you're going in it in a different way. How
Yeah.
was that for you? Because walking into corporate to do that again, I mean, how was that? How did
Well,
that
it
feel?
took 10 years to do it.
Yeah.
So when I left corporate, I absolutely knew I wasn't going back. It was like, there is no way that little thing, that little,
Yeah.
something was telling me, yeah, you don't need to go back into that environment and get triggered again. That wasn't a healthy environment for you.
Hmm.
So I went off and I started my coaching and consulting business at the time, of which was very much focused on entrepreneurs and small business. And I lived there for a really long time, loved it. But then in 2011, I published my book, Shedding.
Hey there, my amazing community of straight talkers. I just wanted to give a quick announcement because I wanted to introduce you to a transformative life coaching program that I have made exclusively for women. I want them to break free from shame and embrace their true potential so that they can build that life and business that they have always wanted. Now, our transformational coaching will guide you. We will help you. We will uncover your passion, your goals, and will develop your roadmap to success. Visit me at neenaperez.com and you can join an amazing community of women that are on the same trajectory as you, because I want you to create that life and business you deserve and transcend that shame and unwanted behaviors. So don't wait any longer. Visit neenaperez.com and let's embark on this journey together. Now back to the show.
The corporate bitch. And people kept saying to me, what are you doing with entrepreneurs when everything about you bleeds corporate? Like,
Right.
and they need your
But you were
message.
avoiding it, right? It sounds
Yeah.
like you were avoiding it.
Well,
Yeah.
I was purposely avoiding it because I
Right.
had to work on myself first so I don't get triggered.
Right. Right.
And so I would say it was around 2016, 17. I then started attracting again, the universe was opening up opportunities for me and sending me in different direction. And all of a sudden people were coming to me saying, hey, I have this high potential but struggling leader in corporate, in my team, in my business, on my team. And based on your story, you know exactly what they're dealing with, and therefore, can you help them? And I'm like, at first I was like hesitant.
Right.
But I thought, okay, they're looking for me from a one-on-one perspective. I can deal with that because I'm not going into the environment.
Right.
And so I did that for,
Whoopsies.
yeah, right. So I did that for a while until then that started just expanding to where I was looking, working with the teams, working with the entire businesses, going into that environment.
That's so good, though.
But by that point, I had gained such a firm, confident knowledge of who I was and who I did not want to be. And so I just had this fierce knowing that I wasn't going to go down that path. And now I can control who I work with, why I work with them, so forth and so on. And if I find an environment that's toxic or not healthy for me, that could be an individual, that could be, a team or the company itself, then I just say no. And I'm not that desperate for the income to where I have to say yes.
Right. That's really, really good. I want you to touch a little bit on that for those who are listening, because I have a lot of, entrepreneurs, and I have a lot of leaders and things that listen to the show. Right. So I'd love it if you tell us a little bit about what is the work that you're doing with these people, with the teams and the corporations. What do you do with them?
So I'll start from the individual up. So first, the individual, I work one-on-one from a leadership development perspective. It could be new up and comers. It could be high potentials. It could be emerging leaders. It could be very seasoned leaders who just are struggling. And again, it's not that I don't have entrepreneur businesses, small businesses that I work with, but it's predominantly where I market is to corporate. And so it's a one-on-one. Let's get you shifted. Let's get you transformed from being, kind of a high potential, but not productive from a leadership perspective. Maybe you're getting great results. You're tactically and functionally performing extremely well, but you're not being the type of leader that is developing and enriching your teams and organizations. And then from a individual from the individual perspective, then they've recognized in a lot of cases where there's multiple individuals on a team that then are kind of skewing the dynamic of what they want from the collective team's perspective. So I do everything from assessing individuals and the team. I do everything from like DISC assessments, 360 assessments, and then working on team dynamics, working on if you're familiar with Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. So working on all the different aspects of team dynamics. So we're taking teams that are what I'll call dysfunctional. Maybe they're immature, they haven't been working together for a long period of time, but maybe they're also somewhat toxic, and really just getting in there and identifying where the breaks are and where the opportunities are. And then how do we fill that gap? And so that's from a team perspective. And then from a business perspective, it could be, what does my team need to look like? What type of profiles should I be going after, internally or externally?
That's good.
To fill slots.
Yeah. That's really good. And that's so needed too, Bernadette, because there is toxicity, right? There is this toxic environment. It can be very challenging, especially when you're working in teams. Have you noticed, being that you've been working at this for some time and you worked in corporate before, now post-pandemic, what's some of the shifts that you have seen when it comes to like leadership or how to handle teams, employees, things like that? What have you seen?
Well, definitely, I would, if I was still in corporate post-pandemic, I think the day after I would have definitely been fired, because the beautiful thing coming, one of the major gifts, and there's been a number of gifts coming out of it this 3-year time period. One of them is the fact that they're recognizing that their people are so damaged, are so affected by everything that went on. It was very traumatic, and there's a lot of PTSD emotionally as a result, for a lot of various reasons, that businesses have to deal with. So leaders, the C-level and the seniors really want to figure out, how do we become more empathetic, more compassionate, more people leaders? They always have said in the 80s and 90s, people are your number one asset. Well, that went away when it really got greedy in the 2000s, and that became just so watered down. It didn't mean anything anymore.
Right.
Now it really does, because they know that they have to take care of the people. And even right now, there's 2 openings for every one individual that's out of work. So there's not a labor force out there, even with all the massive layoffs that are going on right now. There's still a shortage, and therefore they recognize that they have to take care of their people, and their people deserve, and it's being demanded, especially from the younger generations.
Yeah.
It's being demanded that, the traditional old school corporate structure has to change if they're going to retain and develop their people and therefore their business.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's really been a different shift, even for me as a leader, right? Like,
Mhm.
I've seen definitely a different shift of mindset, of
Mhm.
behavior, and also
Mhm.
of connection. I've noticed
Yes.
that people who are working with you now want to feel
Yes.
connected to the
Yes.
work, to the team, to the place, whatever that things that drives them.
Right.
They want to feel this connection. Now, before it was we needed a job. We grew in the job,
Yeah.
and we did it to the point where we retired well, right?
Right. Right.
That's not what they care about anymore.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no, no,
they'll
no,
stay
no.
with you until they don't want to.
Right. No,
It's
yeah.
like, it's like a year in, what
Yeah.
if there's something else? And you're like, I just trained you for like ever.
Yep.
But
Yep.
you do your best. And as leaders, we're shifting and changing all
We
the
have
time.
to.
So
We have to.
we
Yep.
have to.
We have
Yeah,
to.
it's true. I mean, it's actually demanded of us now. It's
Yes.
demanded of us now, right?
And
That
it's
old
good. And
school
it's good.
behavior. Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
I
And it's
think so.
good.
It's good in some ways. It's a little hard in others.
Oh, it's very hard. That's why there
Yeah.
a lot of companies are still struggling with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of and I've noticed as I go out there and I do my research too to see what other companies are doing and things like that, I noticed there's a lot of hybrids of now they're hybriding a lot of the roles. Like I feel like some roles are like, oh, you'll do this, but you'll also do this, and you'll do this and do this.
Right.
And I think
Right.
to your point, it could be the shortage.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
that's a legacy. That's always happened when, because especially right now, with the potential recession that could be coming, down the line sometime. And I don't let my clients focus on it, because then
Yeah.
that's just worrying about something that may not ever even happen. And if it does
Right.
happen, let's put a plan together to uh, kind of react to it, respond to it proactively. But I don't think, I think things are only going to get better and richer for individuals, because
That's
I think,
encouraging.
because the people are demanding it. They're no
Yeah.
longer just going to accept,
Nope.
even, the whole quiet quitting concept of, I'm not going to take on, any task you want me to do. If it's
Yeah.
not in my job description, I'm not doing it.
Right.
Only because of the fact that they want to be appreciated. They want to add value. They want to feel connected. They want to
Yeah.
contribute. They want to make a difference.
It's true.
And I think, the employers have a very challenging time ahead of them. But at the same time, if they, kind of pull together the right team to support them internally and externally, I think, those that really care and
Yeah.
want to kind of make those changes and grow and enhance their business, I think, they'll be fine.
Yeah, I think that's really fantastic. I love that you're doing this kind of work because I really, because me being in the space, I know it's needed and I've seen the shifts, Bernadette. It's really clear. Like
Yeah,
it's really clear.
yeah, yeah.
You know what
It
I
is.
mean? It's not like our old school mindset and behavior at all. Like that's not even like and
No,
I feel my old school come up when I hear excuses. I'm like, I don't do excuses. I don't do
right,
excuses.
right,
You
right.
know?
Well,
Uh,
I would always say to people, because we grew up in and worked in the period of, kind of leave your emotions at the door.
yes.
Don't bring and nowadays I always talk to my clients about the fact that your people are not robots.
Right.
They
Right.
have a lot of junk and they have a lot of beauty within them, and
Yeah.
they're bringing it in, whether you
Yes, they
want them to
are.
or not.
Yes,
And,
they are.
and you have to let them bring it in.
That's fine.
You have to let them
Yeah.
bring it in, but
Yeah.
you have to let them bring it in with a way to manage that. But they need
Yeah.
your help to
I love
allow
that.
them to manage that.
That's really great, Bernadette. And I know that, like I said, I have a lot of leaders, also emerging leaders, people who are C-suite. I speak to a lot of people in my community. So before I, wrap this up, I do want them to understand that you are still actively working with these corporations and
Oh, sure.
leaders and all of that. So
Yep.
let's give them that information. How do they get in contact with you if they want to work with you, bring you on to like work with them in their teams, things like that? Because I think this is so needed. And I know there's a lot of people who are listening, like, I can't keep a team to save my life. So maybe this is where you look at this and say, is there something I can do? Is there something I can
Right.
shift to? Is there something
Right.
maybe I'm doing that I'm not seeing that I'm doing? Because
Mhm.
as leaders, sometimes we just lead and are not thinking of ourselves or what we can do to
Right.
improve.
Right.
We're thinking of
Right.
how we can improve the team and not ourselves,
Right.
right?
Right.
So, Bernadette, give us like how people can work with you, what they can do to contact you, all that great stuff.
Well, they can reach out to me at Bernadette Boas at ballofireinc.com.
Okay.
And or go to ballofirecoaching.com and reach out to me through there. What I love to do is have an initial conversation, just to see if there it is something that I can help them with.
Mhm.
And then basically from there, I would just understand their goals and objectives and challenges and what it is that they need. And then we would say, we would just put a plan together and go from there.
That's great. Do you do it all like virtually or do you go to the places or how do you do it?
Both, both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's good to know
Depends upon
because
what
well,
it is. Depends upon
um,
what's needed. It
yeah.
depends upon what's needed, whether or not, if I can save the money and not have to go to them, then I won't, and, therefore, we can do it remotely, but there's some things that you definitely want to have now that we can travel and have been able to, that we would wanna do on the ground.
Okay, so you would customize the package according to what they need,
Yes,
right?
I
Okay.
have my own set of processes, methodologies, and frameworks that I use, but then, every company has kind of
Yeah.
unique slants,
Yeah.
their needs and desires, not necessarily to their business, but their needs and their
Yeah.
desires.
Yeah.
So, yes, I make sure that it's specific to them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, this was good, Bernadette. You give me,
Hey!
some nuggets to think about, and I love that, looking at ourselves and really focusing on what we're doing too, and seeing that this is changing, that the world is changing, people are demanding different things, and that there's people out there like you as well that are willing to step into the ring with us and
Yes,
help us through it, right? Because
absolutely.
sometimes, and especially when you're an old school thinker or somebody who used to lead in old time, you were on your own, and that's I think what made us so tough, right?
Right,
Because you
right.
were on your own, but you had to still deliver. You still had to, come up with the numbers that they expected you on that
Mhm.
budget. You still had to keep things aligned, and now it's a little bit different. I'm more of a mentor and a counselor and a coach at work. And I enjoy it because I've shifted my life so much that I'm able to do that now without
Yeah,
feeling a type of way about it,
that's awesome.
So that's
Yeah.
really, really great, Bernadette. So thank you for spending time on Straight Talk and really
Absolutely.
enhancing our lives. I appreciate you.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you for having me. It's been an
Yeah.
honor.
Thank you. It's been awesome. Guys, I told you you would love her. I told you I find the best humans. Make sure that you reach out to Bernadette. This is like a serious thing, because as we keep growing, these corporations are struggling even more. And if you're listening and you're struggling, Bernadette might be the woman for you. So make sure that you really connect with her. I'm going to link all of her information below, because I do want you to win. And that's always what this is about, is for you to impact somebody else's life so that you can win and they can win. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. You are the best. Okay. I have the best podcasting community ever. I really do. And I appreciate you guys being on here. Make sure you go on to winject.com/register, winject.com/register, and register for my free community, because I want to be really connected with you, and I want us to brainstorm and be with each other and connect in a deeper way. If you are looking for coaching, please make sure that you also email me at hello@straighttalknosugaradded.com. I work with women and I help them develop that business that they are envisioning in their hearts so that they can win. Thank you guys so much for being here. Love you, love you, love you. This is Neena Perez, Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Until next time.
Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint and the New York Times bestselling author of the book Sprint. He's also the co-founder of Character, a venture fund for early stage startups. How and why did you start using Miro?
I came from this position of thinking, I don't want to be doing stuff online, to thinking now when I do a sprint in person with a company, it's like, we're going to use Miro, even though we're all in the same room, because that's a better way for us to get this work done. As an investor, we're basically investing in their ability to solve problems. We're saying, we think this group of people is going to be able to solve a problem in a really great way and create value by doing it. And actually, you need to give people the tools that can help them make decisions, help them collaborate, help them visualize and see things in a different way. And Miro does all those things. So to me, at least as an investor, I'm thinking, give the team the tools that are going to help them think, that are going to make the most, brighten their skills as smart folks. And Miro is at the top of that list for me.